Welcome, everyone. Can you hear me all right? Give me a thumbs up. Yes, great. Welcome, everyone. Today, we're going to have a panel on the gender gap. Before we begin our session, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Misha, and I will be the host, moderator, and, if needed so, linguistic support for this session. It's a pleasure to meet you. The session will follow a pretty straightforward structure. We'll begin with introductions of our lovely panel. Then we'll move into some opening questions and have a lively discussion around the central topic of this session. And then once we hit the 40-minute mark, we'll open the floor for questions. So feel free to be very active and help us shape the conversation that happens here today. Thank you very much. So without further ado, let me introduce our lovely panel. First, we have Tiffany Hamlin over here. Please get your hands together to welcome her.
Thank you.
Cheers. Hamlin is an expert in communications and marketing manager at the Wonder Deb Studio, which is a studio with a strong presence of women, which is a very exciting thing to hear these days. A fourth of the studio is feminine, and it is led by a woman. Then in this studio, it's also indie, and it's based in Lyon, France. Following, we have Laura González Fernández. Please get your hands together. Laura is one of the key organizers of Power Up Plus and Indie Dev Day, which both are excellent initiatives renowned by their approach to gender sensitivity and representation. We'll be discussing some of those strategies here today. And last but not least, we have Casilda de Zulueta. Is a technical artist and animator who works in the digitalization project at the State Library of Berlin. And Zulueta is an indie developer who's worked in the game called 13 Rosas, 13 Rosas, and in Spanish, in English, 13 Roses, a game centered on the Spanish Civil War. Casilda is also the co-organizer of FemDeb's meetup in Germany. Do not get confused with FemDeb's Spain. So get your hands together, please, to welcome Casilda. This is great. Cheers. Before we begin, I'd like to share some statistics to have some context for today's conversation. The EGDA in 2022 have reported on a global scale, 24% of the gaming force are women. These 24% include peripheral roles such as administration. So we look within it, actual technical roles such as programming and developing, it's only a 10% that has been reported to be women. From within these 24% that it's the general working force, only a 4% has been reported to be women of color. And from within it, 1 to 2% have been reported to be technical positions. Last but not least, 24% of these women of the general conglomerate of both groups have been reported to be in leadership positions, which is a pretty shocking comparison. And still, this will be always a shocking contrast because women make up 46% of gamers within the industry. So now that we have a sense of numbers of what the situation can look like, we're going to move into our first question. What do you think is the general perception of the gender gap in the video game industry, both among developers and players? What I ask by this is that what is the perception versus the reality? Because those things can be very different. Who would like to open the floor?
Well, okay, let's go.
Let's go, yes.
This is interesting because there's two levels in this question. I think you have the perception of the gamers, actually, like the woman that plays video games, and the perception of the women that are actually in the video game industry. So like having a role, a role in the companies. As you said, there's like 47% of women that plays video games. That's only growing, I think, and that's 46, good. Yeah. 46. But in companies, I think what's still in people's mind is that it's so technical to work on a video game, that it's not for women. But like, why? Why would it be too technical for women?
Yeah.
So yeah, we in at Wanadev Studio we have 4% that are actually like full time working on video games. For people, for women, I guess. I mean, sorry.
Don't worry.
I'm French. Sorry, and I'm scared. Yeah, so we have 4 women that are working in the studio full time. We are 15% in the studio, and I am the 5th one. So it's kind of a nice statistic. One of them is the production director, so he's the head of the studio. And 2 of them are modeler animators, 3Ds and 2Ds, and one is a concept artist. So it's still very artistic. I think women are still not confident enough to be a developer or a programmer, I guess. I don't know why.
Yeah,
think
I know
it's-
why. I know why.
Yeah,
It's,
well,
yes.
I think I know also, but in France it has been very nice to see. Like the 10 past years, I've been better with this. Like schools are including women more and more.
Nice.
They are creating programs for women to be following them. So we can see more and more women wanting to be developers and programmers, but I don't see them like getting the jobs.
Absolutely.
It-
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a real problem. I can give you an example, simple. Here in Spain, a team with 2 persons, okay? One of them is the product manager, and the other one is the programmer, okay? It's a woman and a man. Always, always. In all the reunions, all the people who play the game, all the casuistics, the people think that the man is the programmer, always. And it's funny because normally the people think that women are more in the team things, like, you know, product manager, all the thing you did say, administrativos?
Pardon?
Administrativos?
Administration.
Administration,
supporting
thank you.
roles.
My brain is born.
Yeah.
Sorry, okay? But it's not always the same. But it's the basic, you know? You think always that the woman will be in this part, or artistic, or concept art, or something like that, and the man in the technical part. Why? We exist, okay? I am a programmer with more than 20 years of working in tech field, but working for video games is difficult in general. Okay, this is the first step. Second step, if you're a woman, normally you want to work with a team with all men team. And this is a problem because not all the people has the ability, social ability, to work with people with other genders. Okay, another one. Community. I don't know why the gamers, I hate the word, okay, think the women don't want to play video games. Women don't want to enjoy video games, only Candy Crush. Only Candy Crush is okay, the other ones no. And it's impossible they work in video games. If you work, you are doing wrong, for sure. If something is wrong in the game, it's your fault. Because patata. Okay? Because yes, you are the woman and this is not working, this is your fault. And it's like all these steps, I know more, okay? Why I've been working in an industry that it's not so good? I will be having problems and the pay is less than tech. Why? So,
I absolutely agree. On my background, I am a PhD researcher, so I come from an academic field, but I do research in video games many times. And even within that landscape, the presence of men is so overwhelming. that it's so sometimes uninviting to be a participant in the dialogue, just because there is this a bit of who knows who closes the doors a little bit. But there can be also quite empowering when we find each other and we build each other up too, which will lead us to a question later on.
Yeah.
But yeah, would you like to add anything to this?
Good luck.
Thank you. I don't know where to start.
Oh,
So
If you hold it, because I
okay.
don't think it's reaching.
It's so far away. Okay. Wait. Earrings and microphones don't work
Okay.
together,
Yeah.
as I can see.
Because this is a fashion microphone.
I need to fashion above anything. That's,
1 second, it's coming, the
That is.
engineer.
That has nothing to do with my gender.
You can hear it?
Now you can hear me, right? Okay.
Okay.
So a little bit far away because I have another construction over here. But the general perception, as she was saying before, I have a feeling that is completely different between what is the developer's environment and what is the audience environment. Also because it's hard to understand how games are made. I admit it. And especially if you see someone making art, it doesn't mean that they are not technical. If you are a good game artist, you are extremely knowledgeable on a technical level, because if your thing doesn't render on the computer, it's not going to be in the game. That's it. So even the more artistic professions inside the game development pipeline require you to understand how to work on a highly advanced level with computers. And these words somehow stop more women to advance on the obviously technical careers, because since the beginning we are told this is not our world. And this is how, when you are 6-year-old, think, "Hey, maybe I should, if I want to make games, maybe I should do something more artistic, more creative, more what I'm supposed to do, because this is the gender that I was assigned, this is my role in society." I learned to program on my own. I am not a games programmer, but a technical artist, and I end up writing in other languages that are not for you to interact with the game, but I do them so you can see what is on the screen in a way that was pre-designed. So it's not the default shader from when you see a game and it's like, oh, that is Unity. That's because they didn't change some little things there that give it its unique rendering style, its unique shading. I'm going sideways, but I wanted to add that once you finally make it into the industry, salary and work-life balance is the biggest final boss, I would say. Once you are in, it's okay, you got the job, and your peers are great, but you are on minimum wage. If this is how you start, and this is not available for many people, let's say that you start by needing that your parents help you in the beginning of your career. That's not the reality for many families. But then at some point, you need to make more. You need to earn what you are worth it, right? And then the gender gap slaps you again, and then you realize that the majority of your male coworkers that do exactly the same job are earning more by default. Because even if you have the same output, the perception is that you are not that technical, you are not that necessary, and you should be thankful that we hired you. That's been the stories that I've had shared with, and also I will not say which ones are mine.
Absolutely, I completely agree. And this is a very great introduction to just the general feeling that is shared many times in these discussions. But moving on to maybe perhaps a bit more of a positive tone around this.
I try.
Yes, I wanted to ask also, what are some specific initiatives that are being implemented that are changing and closing the gender gap in the industry? And which do you consider the most effective? I'm aware that many of you have been involved in programs that have been particularly good in inclusivity, representation, and platforming women in the industry. So would it be great to discuss those? Please go ahead.
Well, I can
I don't want to start.
Okay. I start with this one. I was introduced already with one of the things that I'm involved. The Femdevs meetup is a networking event for marginalized genders in Germany in the games industry. It's what we've learned out of these 7 years that we've been running these events. It's just meetups. It's just game devs, but safe space, making sure that if we have a +1, that person passes the safe check. That's it. But it's been very useful for juniors or for women and non-binary people that are starting and to go to a place in which they can see that they are not the only one, and then they meet and then they network, and then when there is a new general event that is everyone is welcome, they don't start from zero. And the most beautiful thing is that they are starting to recognize each other, and then they can keep company and introduce to other friends and so on. So the networking is working because they previously had a starting environment in which they were not going to be asked first question, so where is your boyfriend? Yeah, that happened to me. I'm going to say that.
Yeah.
And it's like, I've been working 5 years in the industry, darling. But sure, now it's now it's past 9. 9 years making games. And I'm still here. So the other thing that I know is very useful, and I have taken it as the advice I've taken on my own as well since the beginning, is to join the union. The German games industry union is Verdi, which is in general the service workers union. You don't have to tell your boss that you are part of the union. It's very similar to the Spanish system, and they will advise you, because my German is not that good, but definitely my German is not good at all for reading contracts. So I just go to actual lawyers in the union. I don't have to pay any extra. They will read what is there and they will tell me this is legal, this is not, but you can sign it because if it happens, it's their problem. Or if you do that, then you are losing a right, and so on and so on. Which involves how many hours you work, how is extra time compensated, and all of those things that are very important to sustaining yourself in the long run, because even if you are so much hyped and eager to start in the industry, you will burn out very early if you don't take care of yourself since the beginning. That said, we are still pushing all companies to do their works councils, comités empresa in Spanish, but it's still a long road ahead.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes. Sure.
Also, parental leave is very important to
Yes.
keep in check.
Of
Yeah.
course.
Well, I totally agree with the union thing. We don't. Okay, so at the studio, we're kind of in a good position. We have lots of women in HR also, so they keep us really like they make the studio what it is basically. Like it's comfortable to work there. The atmosphere is very nice. It's all like safe and healthy. So we don't have anything to say about this in the studio. In France, I think we are a little bit ahead because it's really changing like very quickly, but not as much as we would want to. But the thing with union, I'm not sure that we have the same thing as in Germany. We do have one video game union, like it's there. I'm not sure it does the same thing as there. It should be, but I'm not sure. We have associations that work to promote women in games. It's called Women in Games, actually. So that's kind of on point. But it works super hard to promote the role of women in the gaming industry, in video games company. It goes into like a lot of company, as small or big as they are. They go everywhere and they make sure that everybody understands that women are important, women have competences, women can do any work, and they should do any work, and they should be paid
Yeah.
like the same thing. So we have this association that is really like a godsend, really. They do so much, and they promote also into the schools. So they go
Yeah.
do panels into schools as well. So it's kind of nice to have that.
I think representation is such a big part of this
Yeah.
conversation because we're talking about getting together, getting stronger and resistant together. But there's two sides to this coin, which is one, representation so that children feel empowered to join the workforce. And representation plays such a big role in it, of seeing people that look like you in it, particularly, I would argue, women of color, so underrepresented, that do not allow that gateway to precisely pursue that career from very early stages in life. And then the other one is the sticky floor, which is a social phenomenon in which women don't get raised in the hierarchy within the workforce. So many women may enter the workforce and then not make it to directive positions in which they can make structural changes that could benefit and help each other so that we can stay together and help raise each other within
Yeah.
it. Absolutely. Would you like to add anything on this before we move to our last question?
I think I want to add and encourage all the people here to take a step and do something. Because I start making a little meetup of women who like and want to work, will be working in video games in Asturias, in my town, okay? We are like 2 or 3 people, and now I make it the 7th, okay? We start helping that the woman who will be going behind me, okay, make it the path easier.
Yes.
It's only this. If I can, I don't know, recommend when the people tell me, another programmer or another artist, I need this professional, think first and try to give the opportunity to people who you think will be doing the work fine and work perfectly, but the other people that the first one, because for me, all my teams normally are men. When I think the first idea or the first person who come to my mind, normally is a man, for numbers. It's for numbers. But I try to wait and think, okay, I'm gonna list and say, oh, my LinkedIn, I open my LinkedIn and check and try to do 3 or 4 names who could be perfect for this part of this job. Please do it. Okay, do little things that can make it bigger.
Absolutely. And it ties together very nicely because we were talking about networking and the advances it does and the confidence even of workers in the work field. And then we moved also into unions and like the respect and the rights and building on them. Precisely through these 2 tools, we get women and other marginalized identities in the workforce. And then because we build those networks, because we are working for those human rights, really, we can start prioritizing and platforming. Many times people don't hire because they have not even met the person. So the importance of building these networks is precisely so that women and other marginalized identities can be even considered in that conversation. It is a shame that people don't have the time, many times because we're in a post-capitalist, neoliberal situation in which time is money, but people don't put aside the time to go out of their way to find those people. So in a very unfair way, it falls into the agency of the person that is a woman or another marginalized identity to have to be proactive into being into people's mind. And that is an extra effort too, and an extra energy that many other people don't have to do and has to be considered. Absolutely. I wanted to ask our last question. I'm trying to be a bit mindful of time, but I think we're good for one question and then a very quick roundup of questions from the audience. The last question was actually offered by Laura herself, and I think it's a very appointed one. Considering the inclusion and high representation of women and non-binary people in panels such as this one, and comparing it to the representation in the video game industry, or even in other panels, just considering their voices in any other sphere, that it's not preaching to the converted, that it's not, we're already interested in the gender gap, therefore our audience is usually already interested in the gender gap, and we're just keeping informing ourselves. What are your thoughts on this?
You start. You
Yeah,
suggested the
if I
question.
start, I'm gonna not
You don't
stop.
stop? Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna, the hope will be nowhere. Okay.
Then we
Please
can
start.
try to end in a better note.
I don't want. I think your opinion is more important than only hearing me. But, okay, how I started.
Go for it.
We're gonna catch it after.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I think that the problem is a lot of events, for example, a little example. When I start making events, I see that the only thing that they call me, it was for gender panels. But when I see all the other ponentes, speakers, my brain, all the other speakers, they are men. The only woman in all the event was in a panel of gender. It was like, no. And I talk with the people who make it, why? Okay, but you have here three professionals with different roles that are the same, even better than the ones you have here. Why don't change it? Yeah, okay, no, I am not interested. And the same for the paying. Okay, a panel, whatever. Okay, how much? No, we don't pay him. But my co-working, you are paying there. Why? It's not. I understand that people who are out of important, this reality, maybe don't move it, you don't pay it. I understand this part, but at the same level, they always try to don't pay it if you are a woman or a minority. Always. I'm gonna say today the people are more, I don't say how to say it, good in these things and try to be equal. But it's a really problem that exists here in Spain. I don't know if the same in other countries, but here in Spain it's a problem. For example, when we share from the day all the people who invited, and the type of speakers we have and how they talk or about they talk, all the governments from other countries say, wow, incredible, so much women, so much people of minorities. They exist, they are here. You only need to search a little, believe me. It's not so hard. And for me, it's like an interesting point and I think a necessity who you need to change. Even don't go to the event with all male panels. Don't go. Because if you don't castigar,
Punish them?
punish the people, they don't understand. I don't know why, but the society works like this. I am not paying if you don't make the panels diversity. That's all. Okay, hope.
I'm based in the UK, so our approach to all these issues is very different usually. It's way more bureaucratic, I'd say. It's a bit more less direct about it. So generally what I see around me is that the approach that we are taking is not only don't go, make your own. Choose yourself, the people.
I do this.
And the networking happens like that. And then events like this one, I think the Indie Dev Day particularly has a very strong, good internal policies on who gets in the stage, who is sent by the companies to talk. There is policies that I'm not sure if I can disclose. I don't know the legal aspects of it, but there is specific statistics in it that made me interested in being here today.
Yeah.
So yeah, please go ahead.
I mean, there's something very interesting about what you said, like make your own panels, make your own events. I mean, yes, we're doing it.
Exactly.
I mean, of course, but that's not because we're creating a new event or a new panel for women or with women or including women or non-binary people. Obviously, it's not because we create them that it's gonna change the perception of all of those people that think that the only person that matters is a man that is on top. That's not changing the perception of that. So this is, I mean, in France, it's a little bit more bureaucratic, as you said. We're trying, like it's a very difficult subject, like in all the society, like it's
Yeah.
it's something that the government is really passionate about. So it's important. So it's not as direct as
Yeah. I
It's
am
your
from the north of
experience.
Spain. I am more direct than the
Yes.
Spanish normal people are.
But we feel it as well. Like it's kind of sometimes it's still a little. Oh well, she's a woman, so it's that. It's like no, nobody's gonna come for her. It's not that good. So it's not about the pay or anything, but it's more about the reputation of the person. So yes, we're making our own panels. Whoever wants to come, come. But the problem remains the perception of
Yes.
like the head of a studio should be a guy because who could make a video game besides a guy? Like obviously, and it's also linked to the representation of women in the video games itself.
Yeah.
Like you have women that doesn't represent women IRL, I mean in real life. So it's kind of linked to that. I think as long as it's trying though, but like as long as the women in video games are still represented are let's stay correct, but like as person that don't really exist. Like of course those women are not the real ones. Like so it's all linked together. I think the perception of those who plays video games with these women inside are gonna think that those women are not worth anything because obviously the representation of them in most of video games are like very limited.
Okay, and I appreciate because you pointing it out. That's very insightful. That what I was pointing at it was probably to making a bubble. Once again, preaching to the converted. So it's absolutely true how to influence the bigger community. I completely agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, would you like to?
I did, but yeah, okay. I'm in this panel not because I like being in panels about gender disparities in the games industry or in any industry in general, because I happen to be a woman that makes games, but I accepted this one in particular because precisely in the Indie Dev Day I am giving talks that is not about me being a woman in the games industry.
No.
So
Yep.
yeah. So I was coming, and it's like, you want to participate? Sure. Right?
Thank you,
It's
thank
a
you,
different.
thank you.
It's amazing. Like, I'm just conceding you this. Thank you so much for accepting me for this panel as well. But like, that is the thing. I just like giving very technical talks for artists. So I'm just trying to bridge and break that blockage that we have when we come from concept art, from 2D animation, from whatever of those more artistic and thought that they cannot be that technical. And then I try to break that out, to push that away from their brains because it's not true. And I will prove it workshop after workshop. So that's the thing that I like doing. I like teaching technical art for artists so they don't become technical artists, but they know that the art is actually very technical. And then they reevaluate how much they cost and how much they make an addition of value of the product that they are making together with their colleagues. So I did see a switch in the last few years about some very important conventions in Germany, the DEFCON, Gamescom, Amaze. Amaze, I think it's always been very diverse because it has this very artistic spirit. It's very technical, but at the same time, it's like there are games that are no games and things like this. But have this beforehand thought. Somebody proposes a panel, and then the answer is, have you thought of at least making the panel mix 50-50? no, I will try, and then I will have the place, and that kind of thing. So that's, I think that gives me optimism on that, on the event
Yeah.
organization. But at the same time, many indies are still, I mean indies because that's the world that I live in. I don't touch that much with I'm not that much in contact with the AAA environments, but their heads and their faces are men, or there are only men teams, and you know it's hard to break that. And when you make a job posting, and if you don't give it an extra thought about you are, what kind of talent you are actually wanting to have in your team, you will only get applications from other men, because if your picture of the founders is only men, then it's very hard to be the token diversity hire. You don't want to be that person.
Yeah.
It's like, it's any mistake you make, oh, women. Any mistake you make, oh, Spaniards. But that's the thing. There are other things that we can talk about, like our jobs, rather than how it is to be one that happens to be a woman and happens to be a migrant in the rich Europe, etc., etc.
Et cetera.
So there's optimism on my side, at least over there.
A good point.
Yes. Absolutely. And despite the negative tone of like how bad things are, but there's some goodness, because you've also pointed out some improvement. And I think the part of the schools was particularly interesting. Still, I'd appreciate it if the audience today could take a message on being critical. Just instead of consuming media without taking it at face value, with taking it at face value, instead try to consume media on a critical level. Ask yourself, why was this choice made like this? What does this representation look like, and why? Just having some self-reflections around them, and that can help go a long way on the long run. Changes won't happen in 1 year. Changes may not even happen on a thorough level in one generation.
Yeah.
But it's every small step that goes a long way on the long run, I think. But yes, we're going to change now and open the floor
Okay.
to some questions from the audience. And they're going to be passing a mic for them. If you're uncomfortable asking your question in English, feel free to do so in Catalan or Spanish, and I will try to interpret it for our panelists here. Thank you very much. Any questions? We have one over here, and then one over there, second one.
Hey.
Okay, first of all, thanks for the talk. And my question is like, you said something very sad. It's like, in this talk, we are people that we are interested in gender. We are women, non-binary people, or men are interested in the change things. But my question is about what we can do and advice for people who are in the industry or are eager to enter in the industry as me. Because I'm non-binary and my existence is revolutionary, I guess, but I look like a man, so it's easier for me, I guess, but still I'm a minority, and it's very difficult to enter in the industry and make a change. My question is, what can I do as a person, as an individual, to make a change? Because in my mind, the change is made, but reflected in others. I mean, how can we do that?
Absolutely great question.
Yeah,
Would any of our panelists take on this?
Okay, a lot of things. For example, first of all, try to search all the communities or the associations or people who are working in it. Because sometimes we try to start a new thing and other people make it before and need your help, probably. And that's the first step. Here in Spain, we have a lot of movements, or I don't know how to say it, in industry, like, for example, I am the director of the Power Up. It's only for women and non-binary people, LGBTQ+, I think that's all. Yeah. And we create teams and for free. You know, we create teams with development of video games, give you the opportunity to have high master classes, mentorships, and go to events. For example, they have a booth in the other part of the event, and try to help this way. But I start only making the meetup because I don't. This year, FENDEVS was like the first year it exists in 2015, 2014.
2014, 2015.
That is, sorry, like the numbers are not my fault. And we start there, and we talk with each other. Union, you know, comunismo. The people work with each other, and simple of this thing. If you are more like a warrior, I say, you can go to the networking part and be present. Because I start to be the only woman here in the meetup in video games, in the tech part. Okay? I was like, oh, I go to this meetup, oh, come with me. And we were two, we were three. Okay, because I am like the first warrior, we will do it with them, the Valkyria. And the people was nice, but the information don't arrive to other people. And they say, oh, only me there. But if they know you, they will go in. This is little steps you can do. It's easy, I think.
Absolutely. Would any of our other panelists would like to add something? Some advice?
It's good to add others. So imagine you're organizing an event, and it's like, okay, who am I going to invite? I don't have that much plurality, heterogeneity in the people that I'm thinking. So before I make any step, I don't know that many, but I know someone that may know. So I have a bunch of friends, of colleagues that whenever they are asked about that because of their positions in other companies, etc., they are like, Cassie, do you know this kind of profile? If I don't, we can ask in our community server. And then you get the many people that don't want to be just the first ones reaching out, because there's a lot of imposter syndrome enforced in when you don't actually fit in the general image of a profession. But in a space in which you are shown constant care and kindness, then this kind of people suddenly sprout out like mushrooms in autumn. It's like, oh, actually, I know how to do this, and I've been like 10 years developing. And it's like, okay, maybe you should talk about this. Maybe you should start doing this. This is a nice, because we know the people that are organizing it. We know that this is going to be a nice space to start with your personal branding. I don't know, you know, because if you give a talk, people remember you more than when you are in the shadows just developing your game, right? I mean, a lot of people have booths over there showing your game because you have to remember that they have a game and they are the people that are making it. So maybe the next one will have more attention, etc., etc. This is a lot of work. But there is a lot of developers or a lot of artists or a lot of professionals in the games industry that are not that comfortable showing themselves all the time, but sometimes they just need that in order to get one person interested to talk more about what they do as a professional.
Absolutely.
So the networking can go the 6 steps of connection. No?
Yeah.
I know a person that I know a person that I know. This 15-year veteran 3D artist that absolutely rocks it, and somehow is just too shy to ask herself, okay, maybe you are the one that has to give her the invitation, not the other way around.
That's fair.
It was all good what they said. Community is key to start somewhere, and then you need that one person that gets interested in what you do, and it doesn't matter what they see in you, like your person. It doesn't matter what you look like or what you don't look like. the more they see you, the best it is. It's just that.
Thank you very much.
I also had a small point to add, if that's okay. I think all this advice is absolutely amazing and it's very practical. I like to do a segue. You can also don't restrict yourself, I'd like to say. In the academic world that I belong in, as you can be very creative with your approaches. Don't constrain yourself to just one work field when you can tap into many others too. And I don't mean ditching video games at all. What I mean is collaborating with fields you've not thought of. For example, for me, I don't specialize in video games that often. I work in psychoanalysis and linguistics. I have to not toodle over this. But through meeting someone from this sphere, particularly Anna from the organizers, I was starting to be interested in writing papers on video games. And writing particularly on how we portray, for example, the travesti community through translation and video games and things of the sort. So expanding that network not only to the amazing landscape that exists around you, that you can find associations and groups that have been shared here and even more, but try to think also creatively, who else could you get in contact with? Because it can make the experience, if not so directly into your workspace, but in your professional development, more emotionally rewarding, I'd like to say. And a bit of a very optimistic point from my
Yeah,
side.
I love.
very
Thank you.
much.
Cheers.
Thank you.
And then we'll have our last question, which was pointed over there, please. Thank you very much.
I am the Grinch here. Sorry.
No, it's all good.
Hi, thank you for the talk. I would want to ask, I think that in recent years, like the line between games targeted toward men and targeted toward women are like blurring out. But I would like to ask, because I don't know, if it has a correlation, if the game is targeted toward women to employ more women, or if a game is like targeted to men, they only hire men, if it has something to do, or maybe not, or how does that work?
That's a very pointed
Thank you.
question.
Okay, yes and no and everything at the same time. I think the statistics. Okay, I'm not going to pull statistics out of my because I don't know the numbers, but that my experience in the almost a decade in the German games industry in specific is that there are more women, non-binary people hired in all kinds of companies. The ratio of female protagonists in video games hasn't changed that much actually. It's just the kind of focus and marketing that is given to them. Maybe more characters of other ethnicities are more abundant or with a little bit more of sensitivity in the writing, and it's not in the exotic oriental setting that you do without having researched the epoch that you are conveying, stuff like that, right? So maybe it has a little bit more sensitivity on when they build these characters, but actually the quantity is not that much. It's just the focus, the marketing, the advertisement of it. It can be useful or not for a game for the selling point of it to have a different aspect, a different perspective or another. But been working on games whose protagonist gender is undefined because it's not necessary, in others that you can choose, and in others that it's a preset character, and that didn't change in my experience the percentage of a particular demographics in the team. And yeah, there's always going to be everyone, even if we are invisible.
Yes, for us, it doesn't really matter. I'm talking only about our studio, all right? I don't know how it's made in other ones, but we've made games with female protagonists and male protagonists, and it didn't really change the way that we were getting to work on it. Like, it's just it doesn't matter to us. Like, uh, if the game, well, I mean, yes, that's a complicated question as well. But the quick answer would be no. It doesn't change that it's targeted to women or targeted to men in regard to who is going to work on it. But I'm not sure it's the same for everybody. I wish it was. But to us, it doesn't matter.
I think it's different if we talk about indies or
Yeah.
AAA. AAA, you know, because, for example, maybe the gender is important if you make a video game who need support in this type of thing. Like, for example, my protagonist is a trans person. We search a trans person to help us to represent correctly all the things. Maybe this okay, but will be in indie video games or maybe AAAs who have a good perspective of all this. A team that know they are making this type of game. But for AAAs, doesn't matter. But because they are factories. If you need to do this, you need to do this. Doesn't matter. It's totally different, the perspective about this question from these two types of, I don't know, industry. It's the same, but it's not the same.
On my side, I'm going to be very useless because I'm going to throw you the question back, actually. As in, it'd be interesting to also sit down and think, what makes a game for men? What makes a game for women? And there's many of these boundaries that are stereotyped, that are really not shared. And what they are is actually preventing people from exploring games they would thoroughly enjoy. So I'm not going to give an answer to that
Yeah,
because
please.
we would be here for days. But yeah, I'm going to give that question back. Maybe to the audience. Maybe you can give some thought to it. But we've come to the end of our panel. So first of all, I'd like to thank our panelists. You've been so thorough and so kind and insightful. Cheers.
you.
And thank you to the audience. Your questions have been very pointed, very insightful, and optimistic too. I hope you have a lovely day, and yet you keep enjoying the rest of today's Indie Dev Day on Saturday. Thank you very much.
Thank you.